What is up, guys?
Sup?
Oh my gosh, I almost accidentally just hit the end stream button. That would not have been good. Yeah, that would not have been good. Thank gosh, the remote glitched. But what's up, everybody? Welcome back. Happy Tuesday. I'm terribly sorry. Earlier, when I scheduled the stream, I was rushing when I did it, and I forgot to set the time. So if you kept checking back and it said, like my original post said we were streaming at 8:15 Pacific, but then the stream, I forgot to customize the time frame, so it said like 5:45 Pacific. So apologies if you were checking in and being misled. That was totally my fault. Terribly sorry. But we're here. We're back. It's already freaking Tuesday. Thank gosh.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about you guys, but I've been so stoked for this next episode 4 of Andor, coming off of that really stellar premiere. And you guys have heard a little bit of my thoughts on ADHD, but we're here to just talk more about it. You guys haven't really heard from Tom, how he felt, and he had different opinions than I did at first, but I think we're now on the same page. I don't know. I'll let him talk. I'll let him explain. But yeah, how's it going? How's everybody's week been? It's already, the time flies, like the week goes by so quickly when it's like Andor. And no, maybe my week, I was so behind this week anyway, because when they put 3 out, that's 3 videos that I have to edit and get out. And then it's the weekend, and then it's Rings of Power, and then we're busy, and then it's House of the Dragon. It's just like all that little corner rounding the second half of the week. It's just like, go, 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 like all this content. We are so spoiled right now. So
no complaints.
All right. Well,
no complaining allowed.
It's a lot when you have to make videos about everything. So it can suck the fun out of it sometimes when you're like, oh my god, I just want to enjoy this content. But then you're like, oh my god, I have to get all this out. And then they dropped the Last of Us trailer in the mix in between there.
Did you post that? Yeah.
I did, yes. I posted that today literally at the same time as my Rings of Power very delayed reaction. But how's everybody's week been? Anyway, the moral of that story is the week I feel like has flown by. It was simultaneously like very slow, but then like flew by, and here we already are. I guess that's the beauty of, like, for us, I consider it Andor comes out on Tuesdays because I stay up and I watch it at midnight. Like that feels like a Tuesday night to me. So really, I just have to make it to Tuesday versus like psychologically actually thinking, oh, it comes out on Wednesdays. Like it's a whole day earlier. House of the Dragon is crazy. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's getting real. This weekend's episode was awesomeness, but also so eventful. So much happened. But anyway, yes, how's everybody's week been? How are you guys doing? And I want to hear from you guys. How is everyone feeling about Andor? Oh my gosh.
Andor.
Yes, that is the focus. We're going to pregame with Andor. I don't know if every single week is going to be a Dork Discourse pregame for Andor to stay awake, but we wanted to just, following up that 3-episode premiere, talk about it again. The 3 a.m. grind. Thank God no work tomorrow. Yes, that's awesome, Charlie, that you lucked out like that. That worked out. Anyway, yeah, also, have you guys noticed we have some new artwork in the background? Tom secured this amazing print at Star Wars Celebration, exclusive limited copies, only 250. So yeah, that is now part of our collection, along with 2 of the Andor posters that we showed you guys last week. But yeah, so now Dork Discourse has a little bit more going on in the background. So hyped for the new episode. I know, me too. Literally, I am curious because I think episodes 1 through 3 felt very much like a little mini collection. Like they are definitely a solid trio that have a sequential, these 3 episodes belong together type vibe. Now that he's going off world, also there will be spoilers, I guess. I mean, it's been a week, but I've heard from more people lately I've been hearing more often people saying, oh, I'm just going to wait until the whole show has premiered and then I'm gonna binge it all. So
yeah, I don't blame them.
I'd have respect, but I'm putting it out now. Spoilers, we will be discussing the events that transpired in the first 3 episodes. So if you are one of those folks who is saving it all, I don't know why you would be partaking in a pregame stream, but I think everyone here for the most part is watching. So But yeah, now that Andor is going off world, I'm curious if episode 4 is going to have a different tone, and also if it's going to still be checking in with the people left on Ferrix, because he's in a way he's escaping, he's getting out of there, but a lot of his friends are gonna suffer the repercussions. I mean, Bix, her man's literally died, so I'm curious to see if the show is gonna have a little bit of a tone change now that he is going off world, and if we are still going to keep up with what's going on Ferrix and whatnot.
Yeah, no, there are trailer shots with clones on Ferrix and stormtroopers on Ferrix. So the clone piece ties into a prediction realization that Kat and I were talking about after the second watch through on Saturday or something. And yes, we can get into that for a little bit at some point during the stream.
Well, why don't you just share it, because that's what we're here to talk about.
The
share your thoughts. They've heard my thoughts. Start with your thoughts on the show, because you got off to a different start.
Yeah.
And then go from there.
Yeah. Okay.
Because you haven't shared how you feel yet.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I think after the first watch through of the 3 episodes, I basically decided that I'm not going to have any judgment or do anything until I've watched it twice through. Which I normally kind of, with everything Star Wars that's ever come out, it's like the first watch through is just the exposure. You're just absorbing information, because all of us in here and everybody is like, oh, we need to know everything that they're saying, every piece of lore or world building that's being talked about, every single Easter egg, everything. We're just trying to absorb it all, and it's too tall of a task to do it in one wash through. And so, at least for me, I'm speaking it into existence here and just throwing it out there that, like, I have to watch it through at least twice before I can pass judgment or formulate opinions. And this show in particular, that ended up being true, because I felt like there was so much lore, and basically everything was new. All the planets are new. All the characters are basically new. Every reference, every droid, every ship, everything is new. And so it's just like lore expansion, world building overload. And after the first scene, got through all the way to the very end of the 3rd episode, and I was sitting there and I was like, I genuinely have no idea, like, what is actually happening plot wise. I was like, the dialogue, I didn't pick up on any of the dialogue. I didn't see anything. I was just so overwhelmed with all the new stuff that I was like, I have no idea what's going on. I'm clueless.
Well, in your defense, we've also never had a Star Wars show with dialogue this heavy, like this conversation based, like scenes that are purely just about character interactions like this, like with that intensive dialogue. So that is understandable, because most Star Wars shows I don't watch and go, oh my god, the script, like that's not what it's about. That's not what you necessarily watch for. But Andor is changing the game, perhaps.
Yeah, but in this case, it's ultimately a good thing, because at least for me on the second watch through, I was like, okay, initial exposure to all this new stuff is taken out of the way. And now it's just, okay, what, pick up on all the clues, on all the plot threads, on all the hints and foreshadowing and tying everything together. And after the second watch through, I was like, this is incredible. Like, the way it expands the lore, the plot, the tone, the action, the way it's shot, cinematography, it's incredible. But
I think we have to stress, I mean, you were very indifferent after you watched it.
I was, because I was furious, because I was like, I just watched the 3 episodes, and I genuinely have a million more questions than any type of answers, because there's just so much new stuff.
But then you came around.
It was just, I was extremely frustrated, because, for everyone in here and everybody that, we all talk to on a regular basis about Star Wars. Everybody's such a sweaty and wants to know everything and needs to know everything, and because we're used to knowing everything there is about Star Wars. And so like when something comes out like this where it's a complete blank slate and everything's new, it's like it's just, for me, it's just like initially frustrating. And even when Rogue One came out, it was the same thing, because it was all like new planets, new characters. The dialogue is referencing new thing left and right, and you're trying to put the pieces together of how every single word of every single sentence is going to impact the galaxy. And doing that in one watch through is incredibly it's impossible. And so that just makes it frustrating from a I need to know everything and I need to know it now perspective. But after watching it through the second time and seeing how the plot threads connect together and making other connections, it was incredible. And I am super pumped for the rest of the show and this episode.
Quickly.
And just how it's going to expand the lore. It's awesome.
Preston, I do apologize. I'm glad you liked the Padme picture. Unfortunately, it was an exclusive product at Star Wars Celebration that was only sold at Celebration, correct? So I don't know if you'd be able to get a copy. Maybe I'll find the artist and I'll drop their if they have Instagram or something, because they probably have other artwork, I'm sure, or prints or whatnot. But as far as we know, this piece was like a Celebration exclusive print. So, but I'm glad you like it. I certainly like it. Jerry, what's up? TMoney, Charlie, hello. Nic Gundy, the Stanleys. I guess I haven't said hey to anybody. But yeah, so yeah, Tom definitely got off to a different start. I from the start, you guys know that I loved it. I definitely was very first episode when it concluded, and it was very cliffhangery and kind of just like a mundane, ominous ending. It didn't end on a major event or mark or even a conclusive feeling. It felt very open-ended, and it was just like, wait, what? That's it? I was very whoa, I was definitely spiraling a little bit, because that's so different for Star Wars. It just, I was, and for other shows in general, I've never felt so huh? It's over? Oh my god, what? That's where they're choosing to leave off? I was so perplexed. But then I started to, after episode 2, I realized oh, this is part of this is the whole point. That's the whole point. That's the bit. It's about the slow burn and the anticipation and oh my gosh, what's going to happen next. So that was the only thing that took me some adjusting the first time watching. But I still agree 1000%. I loved them even after the first watch through, but especially after watching them through the second and then third times, because I couldn't appreciate each episode kind of on their own. I definitely viewed them the first time as a whole chunk, and then after going back and re-watching each one and appreciating the aspects of each episode individually and not just as part of a trio, I was like, oh my gosh, this is brilliant. Yes, I love it. It's different but loyal. I like it. I love it. Oh yes, about the print. Yeah, I'm glad that you love it. Natalie is my wife. I know, right? I'm wondering if there will be a season 2. I believe it's already been confirmed. I think it was confirmed from the start.
Yep,
that there are going to be 2 seasons.
2 12-episode seasons.
That's awesome. I rewatched the first 3 a few more times. The Sam Witwer way. Speaking of Sam, LOL, he was going to cameo in here. Don't know who, but stay tuned. Oh, in the show, he's going to cameo. What have you been up to, Kat? So many reactions, so much content, and also so much other I've never been so busy. I know it takes me a long time to get my videos out sometimes, but they take a while to edit. It's essentially rewatching the whole episode, cutting it together, exporting it, uploading it. Definitely takes time, but For me, I saw that as a movie. Yes, for the Andor series. That's what it felt like, Nic Gundy. It felt like a mini movie, which is why I was like, these 3 episodes, I was so grateful, actually. Because they released the first 3 because it had been postponed, which is like, it's fine. It's not like it got pushed back 2 months. It was really only like 1 month it was pushed back, essentially a few weeks. I would have been like absolutely livid and spiraling if they had just released like episode 1.
Yeah, it would have been.
And then episode 2, like, I would have been like, you're kidding me.
And I am slightly nervous going forward when we get into 1 episode territory. Because if it's these
cliffhanger
3-part, 30-minute episode, 3-part arcs, and we have to wait for beginning, middle, end, spread over 3 weeks, it's not a good formula for success.
Well, in the Star Wars fandom.
Well, like... if they took the first 3 episodes, exactly what you were saying, and spread it out over 3 weeks,
I would have lost it.
Like, there's not enough payoff to deserve it of being spread out over multiple weeks.
Well,
like, the only reason they would do it is so, you know, keep the subscribers, keep the people paying their Disney Plus subscription. But at least for like HBO shows that are full hour plus, like it's like a small movie. But if you have like, you know, like just like network television, 25-minute episodes with 5 minutes of commercials, 1 every week, would be so painful. So I know like Tony Gilroy has said, you know, starting with episode 4, the scope of the show is going to grow. Like, it was a very small story in the first 3 episodes, but now it's the scope of the show is going to grow. And so if it grows, you know, then the episodes can, you know, maybe hold more weight on their own for 1 every week. But it is, and kind of nervous a little bit going forward, because, you know, even with some of the Kenobi episodes, it was like, if they just dropped the whole thing at one time, I think it would have been received a lot better.
No, you're so right. The whole point is the confines of the subscription, the streaming service. It's like they need to expand, especially 12 weeks, they're going to milk it. Like, and that's just how TV is in general. Like cable, you never get 3 episodes of something at once, and it's only Netflix that gives you the satisfaction of being able to binge a whole season at once. I wish maybe Disney Plus would do the same, because I'm sure filmmakers feel the same way, especially if the layout of the episodes is designed as a trio format in 3-episode arcs and whatnot. So yeah, I haven't really actually thought about that, and I've only slightly reflected on, like, oh my gosh, they're spoiling us with the first 3, and I'm so glad they did that, but now the rest of the show is going to be potentially a struggle if they all end up on very ambiguous, like Rings of Power has cliffhangers, but in a different way. Like, those episodes end and you're like, ugh, like, I want more. Like, Andor episode 1 ended and I was like, what? Like, I was bamboozled. It was a different type of cliffhanger, because it felt like, it was like, oh my gosh, it leaves you with tension. Like, Rings of Power cliffhangers leave you with like just the want to just keep watching, not like tense though. Like, the first 3 episodes, and I saw that as an overwhelming like remark across the fandom, like the build up of the tension was the whole point of that. Like, it was extremely well done. But the only reason I'm against dropping a whole season at once is because of the YouTubers. Oh my gosh, you're so right. Yeah, actually, you're so right, Nic Gundy. For a Star Wars fandom, which is very much like people ingest the content and right away start talking about it, like, there is no wiggle room. There used to be like a courtesy window for spoilers. Like, don't post or talk about anything at least like a day after. Give it even like 12 hours. Freaking House of the Dragon, God forbid you don't watch the episode right at 6 o'clock. Like, you can't go on Twitter or else you'll already be seeing spoilers. Like, people these days, Twitter is like not a safe place if you've not caught up. So that's actually so true, Nick. And some people don't have the luxury of being able to sit down and binge a whole season at once. So it's actually going to be interesting to see that, because they're dropping Tales of the Jedi all at once, are they not?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, that's only 6 episodes, and they're going to be like 20 minutes.
Like
so
15 minutes or so.
Realistically, only 15.
Okay. If you go look at the time, 2025, but
and then
actual
take the
content.
Credit.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yes.
But, yeah. I mean, I think the tough pill to swallow is, you know, if you look at how Star Wars started, the first Star Wars movie
Alice
is like the largest, most iconic thing in cinema history, right?
Yes.
So you start there, and that's the platform that this franchise started out on. And then each of the first 6 episodic films, it's like a 3-year gap, each release was a massive event, and the consequences and impact of each of those films was just drastic. It's just the weight of the films, the story. Each one of those just a global phenomenon, and the impact on the story and the Star Wars galaxy is just so profound. And so like that's how Star Wars started, and that's where the platform that was envisioned. And then now thinking about, okay, now our Star Wars is 20 minutes, 30 minutes of content of traditional television, of just slowly building and lots of dialogue and things spread out over 3 months. The event of sitting down to watch is so drastically different from where it started that it's a totally different experience. And yeah, obviously, like, this is the format that Clone Wars did, and the last 4 episodes of Clone Wars are fantastic, and the whole show is fantastic.
Bye, Sal.
Rebels is fantastic. But it just, the time it takes to get from season 1 all the way to the end and experience the whole show is so much longer, and the build is so elongated, and there's episodes in there that you might never want to watch again. But for a Star Wars movie, and for the banger episodes of a TV show, like, those are the rewatchable pieces. So for me, the most frustrating part about a TV show is that, yeah, you get the experience of, you know, the slow burn, the elongation of the story, and you're building to something bigger. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the rewatchable stuff and what is going to be iconic is only going to be in 1 or 2 episodes.
TMoney.
So yeah, okay. TMoney doesn't like Rebels. Yeah.
I'm curious.
Yeah, exactly.
T-Money...
So like a couple episodes in Rebels are fantastic, but like I haven't watched the show through again. I've seen a couple episodes more than one time, but I've seen Revenge of the Sith a lot of times.
Every other weekend, it feels like.
It'll never get old because it's just an event. And it's from start to finish, the whole thing is the event, versus a TV show is, yeah, you have some filler stuff, some side quests. Yeah, you could argue pieces put together, and you slowly build to this finale. But the format just, it's different. And it's so different than what Star Wars was originally known for.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so in this show in particular, you know, the build across the first 3 episodes was great. And if they keep building on that build through the end of the series, and it stays in the crescendo, then that's great. Ultimately, when it's said and done, if the show is, oh, I could rewatch the whole show from start to finish, then that's fantastic. And that's the best case scenario. But as we know, particularly with Star Wars television, it's not usually a crescendo, right? We wait a week, it's building, and it drops a little bit in terms of impact and weight to the story, and there's side quests and things, but you know, we'll have to see when we get there, obviously.
Yeah.
But
where is the magic, the feel of Star Wars? Andor is just a miss for me. And that's okay. Like, I've been saying this and I think I have to come to the realization, because I've said this about like every Star Wars project. I'm like, Kenobi, I was like, there is no way in heck that people aren't gonna like this. This is gonna be the most unifying thing for the fandom. Everyone is gonna be so happy. Everyone's gonna be collectively in love with it. And that was anything but the case. If any, like, it was more divisive than some sequel content, dare I say. I felt the same way going into Andor. I'm like, this looks amazing. This looks brilliant. The care, the time, the dedication they are putting into this, the feature film, like, attention to detail and the budget and the way they are handling it. I'm like, this is gonna be freaking amazing. But I forget that it's not everyone's cup of tea. And I think the fandom, the sooner we realize that now, the better. There's nothing wrong if you don't like Kenobi and or any of the shows. Like, everyone is not going to like the same things. And I am grateful that, like, I feel like even, the execs we were watching the interviews, even Kathleen Kennedy was saying, like, this is so new. Like, she seemed very, it seemed almost like they were like, well, we'll see how people like it because it is so different. Like, I hope that's the future of the direction the Star Wars streaming shows are going in. And clearly they're not slowing down. If anything, they're ramping up. I mean, we started with Mando and look where we already are, 2 shows in the pipeline with, I mean, not even, like, more than that, Andor next season, potentially some sort of Kenobi something, rumored animated shows, Tales of the Jedi, more Visions, Acolyte, Ahsoka, like, they're not slowing down, and I think we have to just realize now, like, not every project is going to be the same cup of tea for everybody, and I'm not saying this, I wanted to highlight your comment, because I know people have different feelings about different content, and Andor might not be for everybody. Like, I totally feel you, and I think you're definitely right. There is something, it totally feels different from Star Wars, and we were talking about this with friends, and I've heard other people say this as well. I think Cat and Zach, the Cat and Zach show, no, Zach and Alex. With Zach and Alex, we were saying, like, if you were to show this to somebody who doesn't know Star Wars necessarily, they wouldn't inherently think it's there was nothing about it to lead them to assume that it is Star Wars content. So it's perfectly normal and understandable if that you would feel like this doesn't feel like, it doesn't have that feeling. Like, I completely understand that. Me personally, I'm freaking, like, I don't want it to sound like I'm sick of the old Star Wars content, but I have just been craving something new for so freaking long. The Mandalorian definitely did it. Like, Mandalorian was different, but then kind of like Book of Boba felt like the same as, like, a conjunction with Mando. Kenobi had the nostalgia, obviously, of, like, the prequels mixed with the original, that kind of uncharted time period, but it still felt like nostalgic Star Wars. Andor is like the first, aside from Mando, but perhaps even more so than Mando, that feels just like freaking, we've never seen this before from Star Wars, and that is something I have been freaking begging for, but I understand if that's not for everybody. And I feel like the fandom just needs to understand that, because I still, even in my comments section, I saw somebody saying, like, I didn't like it. They genuinely said that they were bored by it, like, they just weren't into it. And people were already going at them saying, like, oh, Star Wars is for adults now. Like, people are you're allowed to have feelings. It's just like, we need to just, as a fandom, accept that the future of Star Wars is going to be on streaming, as the future as we know it right now. And the sooner we accept that they're going to be taking risks and trying new things and going in new directions, like, the sooner we accept and move on from the fact that it's not going to be the cup of tea for everybody. Like, not everybody has to like everything that Disney makes, and that is okay. Not everyone's going to. By the time we're 30 years old, there's going to be like 15 different Star Wars shows or whatnot on Disney+.
And no movies.
Stop.
And no movies.
No.
Which is
we'll get one between now
the main question is, the original goal was to have movies and shows at the same time, but the fact that we're not getting the epic, massive cinematic undertaking of creating a mega impact Star Wars film, we're not getting that. We're getting slow burn serialized television series, but we're not getting the I'm gonna pre-order tickets 3 months in advance to go sit in a movie theater for 2.5 hours. Yeah, the experience that Star Wars traditionally is the entire planet going to a theater within 48 hours of each other and sitting down in a dark theater that's loud and getting our minds blown for 2.5 hours. Versus this is slowly getting our minds intrigued over the span of 12 weeks, leading to a finale.
But I'll play devil's advocate, because I was even thinking this while watching Andor. I was just watching it, my mind not even thinking, this is a TV show. This is TV. This isn't even a feature film.
No.
But you would never think that. I was like, you could show this to me. Yeah.
Visually.
Visually.
Perspective. Yeah.
Visually, if you had sat me down and said, here's a new movie. If you'd brought me to some sort of viewer screening to get audience reviews or something like that, and you gave me no context, but you told me, here's a new film, a feature film, and you were to play stuff from Andor, I wouldn't question it at all. And I was sitting there thinking, oh my God, we're so spoiled right now, because I'm just sitting here casually watching this, not even fully appreciating the fact that this looks like a movie. This looks equivalent to what you would see in Rogue One. Literally, I wasn't even thinking about it. Where was I going with this? I mean, yes, there is that collective experience that we're not getting with the shows necessarily, unless you go on Twitter and engage with other people or YouTube or whatnot. We have the community feel here, of course. But at the same time, Andor is proving Star Wars, if they stay on this track and treat their projects with the same level of care and attention to just detail and truly filmmaking, especially they're learning about their process behind the scenes and the fact that they operated literally essentially within feature film confines, not even as a TV show, treating it like a film. If that's the future of Star Wars, I can't complain that much. Yes, I miss the experience of it, but at the same time, it's we have 12 episodes of this, and this is freaking amazing. I don't know. I know, I understand, and I agree with your point. I'm not saying I don't agree with it, but there's ups and downs. You know?
It's different media, it's different format. But with a movie, you're walking in the theater, and you're getting the whole shebang by the time you leave the theater. Even if it's the first in a series, it's in the movie, it's going to have a strong build-up, a strong conflict, a strong resolution. And then if there's a sequel, then there's a sequel. But you can know with full confidence that you're going into a movie and you're going to get the big mountain peak of a plot in the movie. Versus the television shows, you might stay up to midnight or 3 a.m. or wherever you're going to stay up, and you could only get the first part of the story. And you feel naturally let down and upset because you didn't get the full mountain peak, right? Versus the premiere, they release 3 episodes, they give you that whole nice peak. You get the whole thing. You get the nice setup, with the banger opening scene, which is incredible. Incredible. The opening scene with the brothel and the what happens to the police officers, opening scene was hands down incredible. The first watch
was a statement. It was screaming this, strap in, because this is not your normal Star Wars. Like that's what that was. That's what it felt like they were saying.
Yeah.
It was definitely, yeah.
Yeah. So I think it was very, very smart, on Lucasfilm's end to release those first 3, because you get that nice, beginning, middle, end within the 3 episodes. But what we saw in Kenobi and what we've seen even in Mandalorian and the other shows is you don't get that full closure from week to week. Because you're thinking about what came before, what is going to come next, and if it's not the complete mountain peak in a single episode, or they don't release the peak of episodes together, then the experience of watching that individual episode isn't as strong as if you watch multiple episodes together, back to back to back without stopping, or if it's a feature film cinematic experience format. Because every time you go to the movie, you're saying, oh, I bought a ticket to this movie, I'm going to see a completed, isolated plot. Like, you don't have that fear when going to a movie. For Star Wars shows, I'm not staying up anymore, mainly because I have to go to work early in the morning, and, staying up in Kenobi, was tough. But even for some of the Kenobi episodes, it was like, the first 2 were fantastic, and I'm so glad they released them back to back to back, because you get that mountain peak with the first 2 episodes, with the little cliffhanger at the very end of episode 2 for what is right around the corner to come.
Yeah.
But then, 3, 4, 5, 6, you don't have the completed peak. So, staying up and you're watching with everybody as soon as it drops, trying to get that experience. Like, if you don't get the full plot, like a full plot mountain within one episode, then it's frustrating. So I totally understand anybody who's waiting to watch the entire thing when it comes out. Like,
you're smart.
One, you have incredible patience
and willpower.
But ultimately, I think you are going to naturally just enjoy the show for what it is, because you're seeing it as seamless as possible from start to finish. So you'll get the little individual peaks, with the certain chunks of episodes, but you're experiencing the beginning to end, the massive peak all at once.
Sean, what is up?
So
I want to answer Simply's question. I like that question. Keep throwing questions in the chat, Simply, for us to talk about. Who's your favorite characters? Mine is Bix. Yeah, she is definitely cool, and I love how they just inherently did a good job of establishing her as a cool female. I don't like that word. A cool gal, a cool character for the girl fan, for all fans. I feel like she's definitely chill. I'm curious to see where her story goes after this, because I could feel like this could be a catalyst. She's gonna be very traumatized, I imagine. I mean, that was some Game of Thrones level trauma they put her through, being chained to a wall and having to just stare at Tim's lifeless body. I mean, that reminds me of what they did to Indira Varma's character in Game of Thrones. I won't spoil it, but
Tala.
Tala. If you know what happens to her in Goat. But yes, favorite character. I am very intrigued in Stellan Skarsgård's character. I don't know his name off the top of my head, and I should, and I probably sound like a fraud for saying that he's my favorite, and I don't know his name, but I'm just very excited for the way that he's going to be training Cassian here. Even in that 5-minute little portion there, don't carry around something that you don't control. Always build your exit on your way in. He is just such a stone cold savage. Yeah. And you can tell he's a very mysterious, private. Obviously, as based on the marketing, I have reason to believe he's a political socialite, or perhaps a senator even, or something. He's definitely in a position of power, but what he's doing on the side, even just that alone, that takes audacity in the Star Wars universe, to go against the Empire, especially someone who's probably in a public eye position like he is. So I really am curious to see more of him. He's definitely my favorite so far.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Who's your favorite?
Who's my favorite?
Yeah. She asked us who our favorite characters are.
Oh. Tim.
Oh my god.
Because he got clapped. Tim got the works. Deservedly so.
Alright, he didn't deserve to die. He did not deserve to die.
He brought terror and death to everyone on Ferrix.
Alright.
I guess he was technically the only one that actually died besides
I
other
feel
primo
like
authority people, but
they made an effort though to show he was in a drunken state when he did it. He was in a low place.
That's not an excuse.
Yeah, but it was clear he had remorse. You could see when he woke up the next morning, like I think it was clear he felt badly about it.
He had other issues because he didn't trust her.
No, he totally
didn't trust her at all.
He was a very insecure dude.
He was sleuthing around all over the place.
Stitches get stitches.
Yeah, exactly.
The amount of times I've seen that comment after what happened to him. Yeah, but he was drinking his problems away instead of going to Catholic.
Exactly. Exactly. We can't mask his problems with the alcohol.
We'll literally summon the authorities to their planet and hometown rather than go to therapy. Yeah, no, I felt bad for him. Like, I didn't think he deserved to die. But he
didn't deserve to get murdered in front of Bix.
Yeah, he essentially was executed, like literally.
Yeah.
But if that was gonna happen to anyone, him, sure, like.
Yeah, no. What would have been more suffering for him is if they killed Bix and he had to watch her die.
Oh, that would.
Then he would have to live with that guilt for the rest of his life. So if anything, Tony Gilroy spared him by killing him instead of Bix, because if he had decided that Bix needed to die and Tim had to sit there and watch, then it'd be like, well, that's the end of Tim's character.
They would not have done that.
Because he's just going to sit there with guilt of causing his lover to die for the rest of eternity.
They would not have done that.
They went the other way. So, if anything, he was spared. So,
I also lied a little bit. I am so intrigued. And it comes down also to his performance, because he's literally doing an amazing job. The detective, the officer who leads the whole mission and ends up failing, and he has this fixation with Cassie. And I also don't know his name, but he is
Logan Lerman.
It's not Logan Lerman. He's so good. Ooh, what is your least favorite part of the show? Thank you for the question, simply. Literally, you're giving us the content to talk about. I want to end with your theory before, so I'm saving that for the end. Just want you to know I haven't, lost track of it.
Because initial watch through, that was my least favorite part. And that was my biggest question. I was like, this makes no sense. Makes zero sense.
Oh, well, then why don't you just talk about it now then? Just talk about it now. If that's your least favorite.
Well, do you have a least favorite part? Because this could turn into quite a lengthy.
You talk.
Quite the lengthy.
Well, I think, because I don't know off the top of my head, so you go first.
Okay.
Cereal. TMoney.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
So, upon first watch through, you get to the end of episode 3, and spoiler alert, this is kind of the big reveal of the episode. So if anybody hasn't seen it or is trying to dodge spoilers, be forewarned that I'm probably about to spoil the major reveal of the episode. So 3, 2, 1, spoiling now. But at the end of episode 3, and Casa is on the ship, and then we find out that his adopted mother, Marva, and adopted father, assuming, I guess, come and take him from the ship. And in the exchange of communications, Marva says something along the lines of, how far behind us is the Republic ship? And then the guy says, coming soon, we need to hurry, we don't have time, blah, 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 blah.
Like 9 minutes or something.
Yeah. And then Marva says, okay, well, then we're taking him because we can't leave him here because they'll kill him and the villagers because they killed a Republic officer. And on first watch through, I couldn't stop thinking about that because it didn't make any sense. And it doesn't make any sense because the yellow people who were poisoned that they actually killed had separatist logos on their outfits.
Well, he and his people, they killed one guy.
Yes,
actually.
They killed a separatist person that came from that ship. And so they show the scene of them shooting the guy with darts, the separatist, with the Confederacy logo. And then they come and rescue him. And then they say, oh, we can't leave him here because they killed a Republic officer. And if they killed a Republic officer and the Republic ship that's coming to rendezvous with this ship finds they killed a Republic officer, then they're going to kill the whole village. But they didn't kill a Republic officer. They killed a separatist person. And my brain could not stop thinking about that at all. I was like, I literally can't focus on anything else because I keep thinking about that one line of dialogue. And in my mind, I'm like, it's either so expertly crafted that I'm going to think about it and then eventually...
Read Nic Gundy's comments.
What do you say? What do you say?
That was clarified because this happened a few years before Clone Wars, so they probably didn't know about the Separatist crisis/movement rise. Tom, read my comments.
No, Nick, it's more complicated than that. Because initially, I was like, it's either... You're right. It's either that Marva was like, oh, it's Republic. You know, she just didn't know about the Confederacy and the Republic swapping and whatnot. It's either that, or the writers just slipped up and didn't know the difference, which at first was getting me so angry because I was thinking, is that even possible? But that's not possible. It's not possible because the real reason I think, and I hope it's the correct answer over Marva just not knowing about the Republic, is that the ship that crashed was a Confederacy prison ship. And on that ship, they had Republic Officer 1 or Z, multiple, as prisoners on the ship. Or Sean, that's a good point. Or they're Republic spies disguised as separatists. That's another option. But basically, there was actual Republic people, whether they were disguised as separatists or prisoners on the ship, that Marva and partner actually killed when they infiltrated the ship to raid it for parts. And the reason that she's so compelled to take this strange kid for her own off the ship so that he doesn't die is because that when the Republic ship comes and sees the damage and sees what happened and they find this kid on the ship, they're going to blame the kid for killing a Republic officer when it was actually Marva or the husband who killed it. And so she couldn't live with herself, couldn't live with the guilt of her killing someone so that she could take ship parts for money, and then it getting blamed and the life of this kid and his tribal friends would be sacrificed because of her crime that she committed. So that's what I think actually happened. And she actually killed a Republic officer somewhere on the ship, and she didn't want the kid to be punished for it. And that's why she took him. Because if it is the case, at least in my mind, if it's the case where the people dressed in the Separatist outfit were undercover spies for the Republic, and the tribe people actually killed them, then she wouldn't feel compelled to take the boy because the boy actually killed the Republic officer. So she's not going to be guilty, be like, oh, I'm going to take this kid so he doesn't get caught for the crime that they actually committed, because they did. But if she committed the crime and killed someone and the kid is going to get framed for it, then yeah, she would be guilty for eternity. And so rather than let the Republic, who's trailing, come find this kid and dead Republic officer, put 2 and 2 together, and then kill the kid and then kill the tribe, she decides to take the kid.
She's also in Killing Eve. She is indeed Stanley's. Yeah, everyone's talking about Petunia, and she's one of the best characters in Killing Eve, even though that show ended and I was like, ugh, but we'll talk about that. But yeah, no, I want to see more of her character. I feel like we could be neglecting, could have just been a character-driven decision. Like, we don't know much about her at all yet.
No, but the fact that she said Republic, if they wanted to just be character-driven, they didn't even need to tie in the Republic piece at all. She would just say, oh, they killed someone. We can't let him take the consequences. But the way she says it, and the fact that she says Republic, it's such a small, it's literally one word and one sentence of dialogue, but it means so much. And I think that they're going to reveal it because we know we see Republic troops on Ferrix from the trailers. And we know that Cassian's father gets hung in the streets. And so this is kind of the projecting piece that we were talking about the other day, is that we know the Republic's coming behind them raiding the ship. We know that the Republic ends up storming the streets of Ferrix. We know that the dad gets hung in the street. So if you string those three plot lines together, the Republic comes, finds the raided, crashed Separatist prison ship. They see dead Republic officers. They somehow trace Marva back to Ferrix. They deduce that the primitive tribal people couldn't have killed a Republic officer. So they go for a hunt for Marva, exactly like the Primo people hunt for Cassian on Ferrix. And then eventually they trace it, and then the father takes the blame, and they hang him in the street. Perfect. It's like poetry. It rhymes. Cassian is getting hunted by the Primo. You find out that the exact same thing happened
Primo?
to...
Like Primo Hoagie?
That's what they're called.
Primor.
Primor, whatever. What Primor, Primo Hoagie, whatever it is. But it's like, if I think that just from a story perspective, it makes perfect sense. And the fact that she said Republic, it's so, at least in my mind, the first time I heard it, I was like, that makes zero sense. It can't be, that can't be a mistake. That's an intentional seed that's planted. And then when you think about that versus the Republic showing up on Ferrix in the trailer versus we know via dialogue that the dad gets hung in the street.
Look at Nic Gundy's coming.
What?
It's still too early for them because by that point they haven't found out about the clone army yet.
By what point? They said the Republic. And we know there's the Confederacy. So if there's the Confederacy and the Republic, there would have to be clones. Unless it's the beginning before the clone army, but they didn't confirm that in any of the dialogue.
I agree with Charlie. We shall see.
No. Anyway, I just think, that little piece and the little seeds that they're planting, that's could be a huge part of the crescendo. And if that happens and that takes place, then it, if history repeats itself and the same thing happened to, Maeve, what's her name? Marva.
Maeve.
Marva. Nick, I'm telling you, there's the Empire shots in the trailers on Ferrix, and there's also clone shots of them marching on Ferrix. I'm telling you. Trust me. Stormtroopers are there. And the Stormtroopers, I think, are going to show up in the aftermath of, like, the real-time events. And we'll see Bix and whoever and Marva, who are still on Ferrix, dealing with Stormtrooper aftermath after they hear about the pre-Mor disaster. But then there's also clones. There's also clone troopers, shots of clone troopers marching on Ferrix. And so...
That's the shit, nerds. That we are. Imperial clones, says Nic Gundy.
I don't know. Are you saying they're Imperial because of the height difference? I know some people were saying that there's, like, if you look at the clones in the shot, in one of the shots, two of them are, like, different heights.
So they're not clones.
So they're saying it's Imperial clones because it's not actually 25 Tamora Morrison height people, 25 Tamora Morrisons in the armor. But I think that's way more of a stretch than they just wanted to use practical clone armor. And so they just use people with, slightly variable heights.
Maybe. So anyway, that was Tom's least favorite part of the show.
On the first watch through, because that kind of summarizes the first experiences. There's hints of dialogue and name drops and planets and people, and you're like, who's this person? What's this world? What are they doing? You're trying to build the whole big picture. with all this new stuff, and it's impossible to do on the first walkthrough. But this particular line of dialogue, my head was just spinning, trying to figure it out and think of theories on where it could go. You know, ultimately it's good that, you know, the show is forcing us to ask these questions and think about these things and how the plot's going to go. And, you know, if they're laying all these little hints and dropping these little seeds, and then everything ends up intertwining and getting answered and foreshadowed in a way that has a super meaningful, impactful payoff, then it's great. Then it's awesome. And you would rather these threads being laid and woven together and seeds connecting, and then at the end you have this masterful woven quilt, rather than just a rope. You know, just a piece of yarn, one piece of yarn from beginning to end. If you have a masterfully crafted quilt at the end, then that makes it even better. But in the moment, it is incredibly frustrating because you want to just know the answer to everything immediately. But that is the long-winded tangent.
Perhaps, you know, we don't know Marva's backstory just yet. Perhaps she had children and lost them. Perhaps she was incapable of conceiving children. You know, that's what I'm trying to think. That's what I was thinking about.
Other factors.
Why would someone be so compelled to take this child that they saw with like 2 minutes later? Like, it was a very hasty decision.
Because she just murdered someone, and she knows the Republic is coming. And if she sees that there's a dead Republic officer, the Republic's coming, and it's just this kid with a poison dart shooter and a dead officer.
Maybe. My least favorite part of the episodes were they went by too quickly. That was my complaint. Which was so wild, because for a slower paced show, at the end of, specifically episodes 1 and 2, not as much episode 3, but episodes 1 and 2, when they were over, I literally like looked at the clock. I was like, what the heck? Like, now also that could just be, we haven't had Star Wars since Kenobi, so I forgot that these episodes are like shorter. We've been living in Rings of Power and House of the Dragon Land, where those episodes are literally like an hour and 10 minutes long. So maybe that's why I have to adjust back to Star Wars. I was hoping the episodes would be longer for Andor, but I guess also when you have a 12 episode span, like they don't all have to be an hour. I can forgo that preference, but yeah, that was my least favorite. They sometimes were paced so the pacing is so slow, but I guess they go by so quickly because they, for once, were jumping around to different people, different characters, and it's not just focusing on Andor the whole time. So that's definitely different. Definitely impacts the pace, but
yeah, but that's not a factor when they release the beginning, middle, end 3 episodes all at one time, because you know, okay, this is just the first episode. I know I can just go watch the middle of the story and the end of the story back to back and experience the whole plot mountain. I've been doing this like the whole time.
Yeah, I feel like you have.
But you know, you can experience the whole thing right away versus the 1 episode in a week formula. There's some fear of, ooh, am I going to start this but get left empty-handed because it's only the beginning of a story with a little mini beginning, middle, end built into it.
Yeah. We'll see. I saw this comment in the chat earlier, and it didn't even freaking occur to me. We could be potentially going back to freaking Coruscant, perhaps. Like, now that we're off of barracks, I wasn't even thinking about that. I was way more fixated on, I want to know more about this new mentor here for Cassian, Stellan Skarsgård. I wasn't even freaking thinking about the potential of where are they even going? Where are they flying? Who else are we going to see? Like,
Tony Gilroy, the showrunner, has said that, you know, the first 3 episodes were a much smaller scale, but now the scale of the story is going to increase. So
yeah.
So I think we're gonna start seeing the planet we all love so dearly, Coruscant.
We can only hope and pray.
And you know, the political side and Mon Mothma and what's going on there. I'm not saying that that's gonna happen tonight in this episode, but
very well could. If
he's saying the story is gonna start expanding and the scale is gonna grow, then in my mind, the whole political aspect in the Senate and all of that workings and the greater rebellion setup and scale, like that's, in my mind, that's what we know is going to happen in the show. So that's kind of where it could lead us.
Yeah.
So.
Coruscant tonight, y'all. Eli, yes. I love how we were both just like, maybe, no guarantees. And Eli's just like, Coruscant, baby, let's go.
Yeah.
Yes.
That'll be a special
moment. I might lose it, especially since we know the graphics in this show are so good. Yeah. Like it's gonna be Coruscant like we've never seen her before.
Yeah.
So
yeah, because we got it in Kenobi,
barely.
But yeah, the two kind of scenes we got it in was the same piece, the same window that we were looking out. So, but we know Mon Mothma's a wealthy, well-traveled senator, so she's going to be traveling around and her interactions and dealing with the elegant penthouse homes and things, and we're gonna see a lot of Coruscant in the show.
It's gonna be like Star Wars MTV. Welcome to my galactic crib. Do you think we will see Galen Erso or Grand Moff Tarkin? What about Krennic? Because this may be too small for Vader. Simply, I have been saying this. I freaking hope. Why the heck wouldn't we see Galen Erso or maybe Tarkin? But I'm okay if we don't get Tarkin as long as we get Krennic. Because Galen and Krennic were two phenomenal, great characters that were so short-lived, both of them. And I feel like there's just so much more room.
Yeah, more Krennic memes, please.
Yeah, for real. Seriously. I keep forgetting. Saul Guerrera. I feel like there's definitely... And those wouldn't even necessarily be fan service. As Tony Gilroy has said, there's no fan service in this show. But those were characters they created for Rogue One. I don't see that as fan service to bring them back. So we need to see them. I know. I feel the same way. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm definitely... I think, you know, the events that transpired on Ferrix are going to escalate, and we're going to see how higher ups within the Empire start to get involved. And so, I mean, not that Krennic would necessarily be involved with this stuff because his whole project is Death Star architecture and whatnot, so I don't think he's necessarily like an authoritative figure in that regard, that he would somehow get involved in what Cassian is doing. But even if they just had a quick little sidebar or something and showed that aspect of Death Star development, like why the heck not?
Yeah.
So, but we might leave it at that tonight, folks. End up on a excited note. Coruscant or no? Do your poll. I'll let you create a poll.
What, for tonight?
Yeah.
Can I spell it completely wrong for fun?
Coruscant?
Yeah.
Oh my god. That looks German.
Coruscant. That was like Japanese. That wasn't German.
Don't choke on your aspirations, Krennic. I know, me reminding myself not to get too excited for the possibility of Krennic or Galen or so. But we can only hope, right?
All right. Polls up. Curious to hear
Let's go,
your
folks.
raw thoughts. What are we thinking?
Yes. 100%.
Starting off strong. We'll manifest it.
Full time.
If it's 100%, it has to come true.
We have the power.
It has to come true. They're going to manipulate what is aired in this episode based on the results of this poll.
Yeah, they had backup footage just in case.
Yep.
It was like a choose your adventure scenario. They said, okay, we're going to tune into Dork Discourse
Yep.
See what the people vote for, and then that's what we're going to deliver.
Yep. Kathleen is in the chat tonight, so shout out Kathleen. Love you.
I need to see Coruscant tonight. Now I feel responsible if we don't. Now I feel like, don't blame me, guys. Coruscant will probably be this episode or next. Yeah, we'll see. We shall see.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know if Cassian's going to go there, because I feel like...
Yeah, I don't know. He's too hot of a topic right now.
Yeah,
like, they're
tricky.
not stupid. The guy he's traveling with. Stellan Skarsgård is not... I don't think he would... If Stellan's character resides on Coruscant and say he is a senator or some sort of political leadership position of power, he wouldn't bring Cassian, a fugitive. If anything, they know he's going to be a much more wanted fugitive. So I could see him not bringing him to Coruscant necessarily. I can picture him maybe dropping him off at a safe house or some other location or whatnot. And then go. If he goes on his own, I don't think he would bring Cassian there. But he could go on his own or try to make contact with Mon Mothma perhaps or something, and maybe we'll see her on Coruscant. I don't want to talk about it. The more I talk about it, the more nervous I get.
Well, we know we're getting Mon Mothma on Coruscant.
Yeah, no, of course.
We know that's happening. We know if we're going to get her political
will that happen or not?
Dealings, her political workings going on. We know we're going to see that. That's already confirmed. So we don't have to worry about if we're ever getting Coruscant and in what capacity.
No, we know we are.
We know we're getting Coruscant.
Is it happening tonight?
We know we're getting Senate. Are we getting the Senate, though, per the Stanley's question?
Oh,
that is another question.
I'm not even gonna...
And
the thing is, I won't be heartbroken if they don't. Like, would it be fitting? Yes. But I also understand the logic of Palpatine's in such a position of power. Now, he probably just has his minions do everything. Like, he might not even be in the public eye.
Yeah. That's kind of what we were talking about last week.
Yes.
Is that, yeah, Palpatine, I mean, this is 15 years post Revenge of the Sith, so at this point, how involved is Palpatine directly with the Senate? And I think there is a good argument where he's not necessarily there, because we know in 5 years, he disbands the Senate, and it's just the regional governors. So if in 5 years' time, he got rid of the Senate entirely, and this is 15 years after the Senate we saw in Revenge of the Sith, if you did the odds, we're closer to disbanding the whole Senate than having the Chancellor head the Senate. So I think it's a good argument for Palpatine not being the leader of the debates and actually involved in the Senate. And it is much more, imperial monarchy-esque to not be directly involved with the daily proceedings and the daily dealings of the Senate. So, yeah, like Masameda, someone else could be leading the debates, but then the debate wraps up, and then Masameda goes back to the office. And then we get the dialogue with the Senate. And it'll be a shadowy, like, it's got to be like storming on Coruscant. You got the lightning. He's up against the broken window.
They would have repaired it.
Nope. He leaves it shattered as a memoriam to Mace Windu and his greatest triumph of defeating the Jedi. I guarantee he never repaired that glass. That glass never got repaired. Just open window, and he just goes and meditates there and stares at Mace's body that was left in concrete on the sidewalk way down below.
Okay. All right. We know Andor is a more adult show, but that's Game of Thrones level. Well, on that note, we'll end this poll with a resounding overall yes. Coruscant tonight. You heard it here, but don't come crying back to me if that doesn't come to fruition. It's not my fault. But y'all know I'm in favor of that. I'm keeping fingers crossed, so we can only hope that's the case. But we'll see. But yeah, actually, I'll end on this. I did not even freaking think about this until I saw the person post about it on Instagram. And they said they cannot stop thinking about the 2% chance that we might see Jar Jar Binks as a senator in this show. So on that note, folks, I will plant that seed in y'all's heads, and we're gonna say goodbye for the night. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and hanging out. We really enjoy these, and like I said, I don't think every week we will shake up the topics, but I just wanted to discuss, since you guys have not fully really heard my thoughts, or Tom's definitely haven't heard from him regarding how he feels about the show so far. We wanted to do a little catch up, share our thoughts, going into the 4th episode here after that stellar 3-episode premiere. So thank you guys so much for hanging out. We'll definitely be back next week, but like I said, we're not gonna, it might not be Andor content. We might shake things up unless something wild happens in this episode. Who knows? And then maybe we'll talk about it, but
I didn't even think about that.
I know, right? Yeah, okay.
Will Jar Jar show up? Would they let him stay in the Senate? That's a serious question.
OMG, that's right.
That's a serious question.
Jar Jar? Misa back? Yeah, anything's possible now.
Would they let him stay as a senator?
Why the heck wouldn't they?
In Padme's death and aftermath, she fought so hard against giving powers to the Chancellor.
Watto will appear.
Yes, Zach, that's facts. Yes.
I'll see you later.
That's a given. Watto is on the Toydarian Senate. We know that's a given. I'm a Toydarian. But yeah, would they, if you think about it, Jar Jar did everything that Padme went against. And so would the voters of Naboo who say, here, you're a Nubian senator now, would they vote Jar Jar into that position for indefinitely? Because after Padme dies, like, Padme's literally dead, and they're going to say, oh, let's vote in the Gungan, who went completely against everything that Padme's life stood for. Would they do that? That's like salt in the wounds. That's saying Padme just died, and now as a planet, we're going to vote Jar Jar and put him in the Senate. I don't know. That's a slap in the face to Miss Back here. That's I don't know.
We're gonna leave y'all with that thought for the night. That's a whole other discussion. I don't think that's going to happen, but we'll leave y'all with that thought.
Boss-nass on the Senate?
On that note,
what's a life expectancy of a Gungan?
I don't know. Probably longer than humans, I'd say. Anyway,
I don't know.
Thank you guys so much for watching. We're gonna take off for the night. I hope you guys have a great rest of your night. If you're staying up, get caffeinated, get ready, get locked and loaded. It's hopefully going to be a big episode this evening. I will see you guys. Definitely going to be filming my reaction. So I'll see you guys whenever I post that. Also, I think we're probably going live over on ADHD again, I believe, as a pregame at 11 o'clock. So I'll see you over there if you're still awake. But shout out to everyone who's been hanging out.
Is it Cat and Zach show tonight?
No, we'll see. I don't think so. Okay. I'm not sure. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks for hanging out. And we will see you guys again very, very soon.
Awesome discussion. Hope everybody enjoys the episode. This was a fun chat.
It was. It was a good time.
Very good.
All right.
Very good.
Love you guys. Have a great night, everybody. And we'll see you guys again soon. Bye, friends.
Adios, compadres.